we've got two sauces today. They actually start the same. I want to show you, by making your own sauces, you don't have to buy the stuff at the store, which is usually full of corn syrup and MSG. Now, all Japanese sauces usually start with the same base. We've got sake and mirin. Now, sake, of course, is rice wine, and mirin is basically just a seasoned rice wine or a sweetened rice wine. So, real simple, I'm going to start these and get these really hot, these two pots. And I definitely want to start these on a high because we want the alcohol to completely burn off. So I'm going to give those a second to really start heating up before I actually add my alcohol. Now, sake, rice wine, right? Now, not really, because sake is actually more like rice beer. If you think about what sake is, now wine is made of sweetened juices that are fermented, kind of like from grapes. Beer is made from fermented grain. Rice is a grain, so I want you to think about sake being more of a rice beer. So we're going to start both of these the same. Remember, one's going to be teriyaki, one's going to be miso, but they start exactly the same. So here we go. So a little bit of sake in each. So that's going to give us floral quality. Once that sake starts to boil and cook down, that's going to give us more aromatics than actually direct flavor. The mirin is going to give us flavor. That's going to give us our sweet. So, you know, we're always chasing that yum. So know that mirin is more of that sweet than anything. So we're going to let this come up to a boil. In order to thicken sauces, you have a few choices here. We could do a little bit of the cornstarch deal, but for these sauces, I want them naturally thick, so I'm going to go for a little bit of sugar in each one. Now, I'm using dehydrated cane juice, so this is a completely organic sugar. It's not a refined sugar in any way, so I'm going to put a few spoons in each and let that start coming up to a boil. Excellent. So, same base, right? When this comes to a boil, they're only going to differentiate by soy sauce or basically miso. I've got a boil on these sauces now. So here is where we make one sauce into miso and one sauce into a teriyaki. So with the teriyaki, this is a Japanese soy sauce. It's the dark soy. Now, one thing to remember though is this is pure alcohol vapor. Now, all the smoke that's coming up could ignite, so do be careful. And we call that flambe in the kitchen. Usually, if you know what you're doing, you can control that. But in case you're afraid of fire, the best thing to do is to turn that down a little bit and then add your soy sauce. So the soy sauce is going to go in, and basically we've got sweet, we've got floral from the sake, and now we've got a little salty. We don't want it too salty because this will cook down a little bit. So just enough soy sauce, and we'll let this come back up to a boil now. Now on this side, we're going to make this the miso sauce. So I'm using a white miso or a yellow miso here, nothing too dark. We want a really nice kind of sweet flavor. And in order to add that in, is I'm going to take the miso, and again, I can lower this down if I wanted to. And what I'll do is I'll take the miso and I'll throw it right in and kind of whisk it in as I go, and that'll make the sauce. So on this side, the salty is going to come from miso. So from one side, salty is soy. On the other side, salty is miso. So we'll whisk that together and let that reduce further. Those are going to continue to reduce a bit, and I'm going to add the final ingredient to this, that secret ingredient, the ginger. And the way I do that is I want ginger pulp. So what we'll do is we'll take a finger of ginger, we'll shave down the smaller fingers of ginger. And I've got my box grater ready to help me out here. And what I'll do is square one side off, and then I'll peel. You can always use a peeler, but once you work with ginger enough, you can just bring the blade and kind of rub the finger of the ginger with the sharp edge, and it kind of just takes the skin right off as you go. So with the ginger peeled, we'll take the box grater and cover the box grater with a piece of saran wrap, and we'll use those smooth, small holes. And then we're just going to rub the finger of ginger along there. This is a really great way to just get the pulp only and leave the fiber behind. Excellent. So I've got just a little bit of ginger pulp, and I'm going to actually divide them between the two sauces. So a little for the teriyaki and a little for the miso. So I'm in pretty good shape here. I'm bringing these back up to a boil. I'm going to let these reduce So the main event really is the yakitori. So I've got two ingredients, real simple. I've got my scallions here and I've got a pork tenderloin. The pork tenderloin is basically the filet mignon of pork. It's a very lean cut, but it's also a really flavorful cut. So I've got scallions and I've got the pork tenderloin here. Now when working with one cutting board, I'm always going to work from vegetables to meat so I don't have any cross-contamination. So we're going to take the whites only with a little bit of the greens of the scallions. We'll leave the greens behind for, maybe some garnishing at the end of the show. And I want to cut these whites with a little bit of the greens into 1-inch widths. So that's great. I'll leave those to the side. Now with my pork tenderloin, I just really want them to fit on a skewer. That's really kind of the bottom line here. I've got 6 to 8-inch skewers here. So why don't we start by halving the loin, and then we'll go half lengthwise. Now that I've got 2 halves lengthwise, why don't I do, let's see, each piece of meat's gonna kind of tell you how it's gonna look nice on a skewer. So I'm gonna go lengthwise again, and now I'm gonna have nice little blocks from here. So 1 inch to match up with the scallions. And that's gonna look good. So I've got 2 components on the board, now I'm ready. My skewers have been pre-soaked in water because once they hit that grill, I don't want them to burn. So the best way to do that is go ahead and give them a nice soak in water, and I'm basically just gonna alternate. I'll take a piece of pork, and I'm going kind of against the grain through, then I'll take a piece of scallion, right dead middle, and I'll take another piece of pork. Now, we're using pork tenderloin here, but there's no reason this can't be chicken breast or even tofu if you really wanted to go super healthy with these. But again, we're using pork loin. Anywhere you hear the word loin, loin really equals lean. It's not a fatty cut of meat. So just remember, loin means lean, and it's a nice flavorful piece of meat. And we want these whites because they're nice and durable. They're gonna hold together on the grill quite nicely. Now, I'm just gonna make a few more. I think I'm gonna go for 5 today. And these can be made well ahead of time. They're a fantastic appetizer. As people come in to your house, this is a nice way to kind of greet them with a nice yakitori. That's good. I am good to go. So these are done. I'm going to leave these here and take them over. Now for grilling yakitoris, same rules. What we're going to do is make sure we have a nice hot grill. And again, visually, if you can't tell if the grill's hot or not, let's take a little bit of oil. So I'm gonna put a few dabs of oil on there to see when they start smoking. And these are smoking pretty quickly, so this grill's ready. Another good tip for you, if you're not really sure when to throw the meat on, at meat height, if you put your hand at meat height, you should be able to hold your hand on there for about 4 seconds. If you can hold your hand on there for about 4 seconds before it gets a little too hot, that's also a really great way to tell if the grill's ready or not. Because I'm not a big fan of throwing the droplets of oil on open grills, where you're using either charcoal or gas grills. So these are gonna go right on. And I'm gonna let the meat sear, lift up on its own. I'm not gonna be in a hurry to flip these over, so I'm just gonna let it do its thing. So our first set of yakitoris are done. All I've done is let them cook up, sear up really well on one side, and then turn them over. Now, I'm not a big fan of overcooking meat, but this is pork, so you wanna make sure that they're completely cooked through. So these are good. I'm gonna separate them onto 2 plates. I've got one going down for one sauce and one for the other sauce there. So these are almost ready to turn. Once they're unstuck to the grill, that's the first indicator of when I could turn. So then I'm gonna peek without really moving it. So if I peek and I see a nice grill mark, then I'll go ahead and turn it over. That's looking good. Again, I'm gonna kind of move them around to see if they'll loosen up, and they are loose, and I'll look and I see a nice grill mark. That's perfect right there. Excellent. So what do I have? I've got my sauces ready to go. So one side is going to be our miso sauce. I'll take that and just give it a nice dab. You can be really generous because remember, we didn't season any of these yakitoris. So I give them a nice coating. That sugar and the miso have come together really nice, so it makes a really beautiful glaze. Feel free to kind of, lay some sauce around the plate as well if you want to. Now, my second sauce gets a different brush. This is going to be my teriyaki, and that's reduced into a really nice glaze as well. So this one I'm not going to dab more. I'm just going to kind of swirl right on. So a little swirl of the sauce. These are looking done, so I'm gonna pull a few of those and throw them right onto there. Oh, that looks great. These are really great 2-bite little yakitoris. I wouldn't make them much bigger. Very nice. I've made a little garnish with the scallions that I had reserved. I took the bottoms to make the yakitoris. I'm gonna take the tops slivered to just kind of top these. A really great meal.